Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Anko, Yugao and Kurenai? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the heartless. When Naruto and group came out of the hallway, they came across something like a trial with a blonde girl wearing a baby blue dress as the accused and a woman that was bid on the large size and was wearing a red and black dress, and she was also wearing a crown and had card people standing guard. Then Naruto saw the rabbit that was chasing run up some stairs and then said the court is now in session. The girl looks at the bunny and asked what I'm on trial, but why I haven't anything wrong. Not answering the girl, the rabbit continued presiding the court. Her Majesty the Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Heart looked at the girl that said this girl is the one that done it, and of that I have no doubt, and for the reason because I say so, that's why. But that is so unfair, the girl said. And I don't care, so do you have anything to say in your defense, the queen said. As a matter of fact, I have done nothing wrong, and another thing, just because you are a queen, that doesn't give you the right to be so mean, the girl replied. Naruto snickered a little before saying I like her. Of course you would, she has moxie, Kurama said. They're right about her having moxie, and she is right, the queen, this court is a farce, Naruto said. Before anyone could say anything, the queen shouted quiet, which caused the girl to flinch. Then the queen continues, how dare you defy me and say that I am wrong. You know what, I am beginning to get pissed at this farce, I am going to stop this, Naruto said. Before Naruto could take one step forward, Goofy said, but we can't. Oh, and why not, Goofy? Because we are outsiders and we would be muddling, Goofy said. Meddling, Donald said. Yes, that is agents the rules, Goofy said. Now look here, you two, I agreed to help you find your king so I can help Otherworld, so here is what I say, you can take your rules and shove it up your ass, Naruto said. Then he begins to walk into the opening. As Naruto was walking into opening, he heard the queen says the court find the defendant guilty for assault and guilty for the attempted theft of my heart, causing Donald and Goofy to rethink their plans, and then the queen says, and the court sentence her to have her head removed, so of with her head. Then Tifa, Goofy and Donald quickly walked up Naruto. As the cards walked over to the weapon at the ready, the girl said, oh no please, I have done anything. Then she closed her eyes and wait for the attack, but it never came. Instead she heard thumps like bodies being piled in one another, as well as groans upon opening her eyes, and sees the card people stacked on one another, and Naruto standing there. The girl asked, who are you? My name is Naruto, and I will protect you from this queen bitch, Naruto said loud enough for the Queen of Hearts to hear. But how dare you call me that, and as well as interfering with my court, the queen said. Naruto turned to face the queen and said, in order of your questions, I called you what you are, and that would be a bitch, and as for interrupting your so-called court, please, this isn't a trial, it's a farce of someone who let the power inflate their ego. So, what do before you want before you lose, the queen said. Well, I am already doing what I want, but I also know who the real culprit is, but I can see that you're the type of person that think they are right, even if the proofs slap them in the face, Naruto said. The queen growls at the constant insults, then says fine, I will give you the benefit of the doubt to prove that she isn't the one I seek, but you have 1 hour, otherwise it's off with her head. That's fine, this me, but you better keep your end of the bargain, Naruto says. But now guards lock her up, the queen instructed, then the cards put her in a cage. Naruto nodded, then walks up to the cage girl, then he says, hey, how are you holding up? The girl then says, well, I am doing good under the circumstances, and I am sorry for getting you in this predicament. Naruto just waved it off and said, think nothing of it, I just can't sit right when someone is being judged for something they didn't do, so allow me reintroduce myself, my name is Naruto. Then he pointed to Tifa and says, this is my friend, her name is Tifa. Then he points the anthro animals and said, and these are some acquaintances I made recently, the dog is Goofy and the duck is Donald, so what's your name? Well, it's nice to meet you all, my name is Alice, Alice replied. Hi, Tifa said. Hey, Goofy greeted. Hello there, Donald said. Then he turned to Naruto, and what do you mean acquaintances? Well, for one thing, I just jet you too, and I know that you are just using me so you can find your king, Naruto said to Donald. Then he turns to Alice, then he says, well Alice, it's nice to meet you as well, and don't worry, we will get you out. Then head thought an archway that leads to a forest. Once in the forest, Tifa turns to Naruto and asks, so Naruto, do you know what we are looking for? Before Naruto could answer, Kurama beat him to it by saying no he doesn't, but with the kid's luck, we will find what it is what we are looking for and know it, or we will walk into someone that knows where to find the evidence. You have got to be kidding, the key is in the hands of an idiot, Donald said. Well, I doubt you will think that when you tell you that I have been sabotaged for as long as I have had a sensei, Naruto said. He is speaking the truth, duck, a voice said out of nowhere. Show yourself and tell us how you know that, Naruto said. Certainly the voice came, then a pink and purple cat's head appeared out of nowhere and it was also smiling, then it disappeared, then reappeared in a different, after repeating it a few more time it appeared in a stump with its body standing on it, head. Then Naruto said, Cole, so you are then one that knows me. Yes, I know who you are, Naruto, the boy with no dark side, the boy who is a reincarnated of a keybearer, the cat replied. So, who are you, Donald asked. Who am I indeed, but alas, poor Alice is about to lose her head for something that she didn't do, the cat replied. And I get the feeling you're not going to tell us who the culprit is, even if we ask, Naruto said. I might, but then again, I might not. All that matters is the culprit likes to lurk in the dark, the cat said. What does that mean, Goofy asked. It sounds like a riddle, Goofy, Donald said. Oh, so what it mean, Goofy asked. Donald shrugged and said, you got me. What the cat means is the thing that we are after really is a heartless or someone with the power to control the heartless, Naruto said. That's right, the Cheshire Cat knows all, but he sometimes doesn't like to share, Cheshire said before he faded, before saying, though here is some advice, the shadows are coming for the heart of its maiden, although at the moment it's too dark to see them. Naruto realized something, then he shouted, hey, show yourself again and tell me how you know my. Okay, what does that mean, Tifa asked. Well, I am not sure about the maiden part, but by the sounds of it, the heartless are trying to find the heart of the world, Donald replied. I see, and by the sounds of it, if we need to find the heartless that is in control, we need to find some lights, Naruto said. You might right, Naruto, but there is only one room and that we know of that has lights, and that is the room with the sleeping doorknob, Tifa said. Yeah, but there was one problem while Naruto was dealing with the heartless and Kairi was getting used to using a Naruto clone. I looked around the room, there is no light switch, Kurama said. Maybe there is a way for us to walk on the ceiling, then that way we can find a way to turn the lights on, Goofy said. Goofy, do you have any idea on how stupid that sounds, Donald said. And who's to say that it's not possible, after all I can do it and there might be a way for you to, Naruto said. What makes you so sure, Donald asked. I don't, but you told me on the way here each world has its own laws and by that logic, some of the worlds we visit might have something that defies what we know, Naruto said. Well, he does have a point, after all back on my world before the darkness took it, if you wanted to use materia to its full potential, two had to undergo a treatment that fused something known as the live stream into you, Tifa said. Bawafui, Donald said as they were right. Alright, let's get looking to find a way to the roof of the bizarre room, Naruto said, then they split up and looked around the forest. After 50 minutes of looking and slaying heartless that showed, they found passageways to all over the world, and there was only one more passageway left which lead to a tea garden. After looking around they entered the little house, and to their shock, they was teleported to the ceiling of the bizarre room. Then Donald said, well, I didn't think that would really happen. Before anyone could say anything, the Cheshire Cat appeared and said, well, hello there, I see you're looking for the shadows, and they are hiding somewhere near, and if you want to find the shadow, why not try turning on the lights. Then he disappeared again. As the cat was disappearing, hey, don't you dare disappear on me, you tell me how you know me, but he was too late, the cat had disappeared, causing Naruto to say, oh, for funk's sake, the next time we see him, I am going to grab him and shake him till he tells me, and if not I will skin him alive. Tifa grabbed Naruto by the collar and said as she dragged him to find a way to turn the lights on, come on Naruto, we don't have much time left, focus on saving Alice, then you can plan to try and kill the cat. She is right, Kit, we have to focus on Alice, as I fear she is more important than you or I will ever know. I doubt she even knows, plus I don't think you will be able to catch the cat, let alone kill it, Kurama said. Naruto looks at his fox companion and asked what are talking about, Kurama. Before Kurama could reply, the heartless appeared, then Naruto said with a grin as he summoned the Keyblade, oh goody, now I have something to vent on, thanks to that goddamn cat. After making quick work of the heartless, Naruto jumped onto the light and taped the glass blade, causing it to light up, and upon looking up, they saw a puff of smoke, but nothing happened. Then Goofy asked, so what now? Maybe it's still to dime, so let's turn the other light, then see what happens, Tifa said. Good idea, Naruto said as he jumped to the other light, then did the same thing. Once both lights were lit, the Cheshire Cat reappeared and said, well, all the lights have been lit and the shadows will appear soon and they will arise at another part of the room. Well, at least give us a hint at where they will appear, Naruto asked. Well, they might go for the sleepy doorknob, the cat said, then he disappeared. Naruto sighed and said, well, time to go right side, then they all left to go the sleepy doorknob. Upon reaching the hall, Naruto felt a pull, so he looks around, completely missing the Cheshire Cat, appearing and saying, if you want it better you might want to get to higher ground. Seeing the logic to it, Tifa turned to Naruto, said he is right, as it is better chance to finding the heartless. Naruto looks at Tifa and said, huh, what was that, Tifa? The Cheshire Cat said that we have a better chance to find the heartless if we are on higher ground, Tifa replied. The cat appeared in the middle of the group and said, well, it's too late for that, as they are here are prepared for the worst, if not that too bad. Then he points up and a heartless drops down. The Heartless is a bizarre heartless with its spindly legs resembling scissor jacks, its arms appear to be made of paper, and a head that is made of several segments balanced on top of each other. Each of these segments sports its own face. You have got to be kidding, we don't have time for this, Naruto said as he pulled out the summon materia, then he turned to the fox and said, you ready Kurama? You know it kid, Kurama replied. Kurama, time to shine, Naruto said as he channeled some magic into the orb, and then he held it up, then above him, there was a sun-like sphere, then it exploded making 9 fire-like streams, then they headed to the little vixen which she absorbs, when the last one was absorbed, she began to grow. When Kurama reached full size, she looked at the Heartless, she growled and said, well Heartless, it's time for you to burn in the 7 rings of hell, then she tackled the Heartless, then she started to charge a tailed beast bomb. Naruto sees the attack and knew what the attack was as she had told him about it, then he said, shit Donald, do you know any barrier spells? I do, why Donald replied asked. Then cast it now, the attack that Kurama is about to launch will do some damage, Naruto replied. Donald nodded, raised his wand and said protect, then protective green shield covered the group. The moment the spell covered the group, the massive fox unleashed the jutsu, causing a huge shockwave that destroyed the room. When the dust settled, the spell was undone, and Naruto went over to Kurama and the Heartless and said, Kurama, think you can drag it to the queen? You know I can, though I am wondering why the tailed beast bomb didn't completely destroy the Heartless, Kurama said. Naruto think for a moment before saying, well, if I remember right from when I was Ventus, a Heartless or an unversed can only be destroyed by a Keyblade. Kurama thinks about it, then says, well, that makes sense. When the materia was secured, Naruto turned to his companions and said, well, I think that covers the evidence we need to prove Alice's innocence. Then he felt a pull from before, begins to look around and spot someone wearing a full body armor that was black in color, and it also had the Heartless symbol on it, but he didn't stick around as summoned a portal and walked into it. Then Naruto thought. That was a Keyblade Amaur, and that looked like my Amaur when I was Ventus, but it wasn't, so that means that was my missing darkness. Then he turned to his group, then asked, are you all okay? I'm okay, Naruto Tifa answered. So are we, Goofy replied. Donald goes up to Naruto and asked what spell that the fox used and what sort of summons do you have? Well Donald, that attack wasn't a spell, it was a jutsu that only 9 entities back on my homeworld can use called a tailed beast bomb, Naruto replied. And what are the entities called, Goofy asked. We are called the Biju or the tailed beast, and we can have this conversation later as our hour is almost up, Kurama answered. She is right, Tifa said. Then the group headed to the courtyard with Kurama behind them dragging the Heartless. Once they were in the courtyard, Naruto said, we are back and we have the evidence you wanted. Then Kurama came over with the Heartless and dropped it in front of her. When the Queen of Hearts saw the Heartless, she shouted, what is the world is that thing? Well, you're royal bitch, this is the thing that failed to take your heart, seeing as you don't have one, Naruto said before he summoned his Keyblade and stabbed it into the Heartless's chest, destroying it. Well, seeing as I am queen, I am the law, so I say you are guilty of defying the queen, so off with their heads, the queen says. Then the card people goes to attack them. Big mistake, you stupid bitch, Naruto said, then looks at Kurama and says, Kurama. Knowing what Naruto was going to ask, the 9-tailed fox said on a kit, then with one paw she takes out the cards, then she pulls down the cage down. Tifa heads over, pulls the cloth and says, Naruto, she isn't here. Damn, he must have grabbed her while we were looking for the Heartless, Naruto said. What are you on about, who must have taken her, Goofy said. There isn't time, Naruto said as he headed back to the bizarre room just in time to see his dark side looking at the door with the sleepy doorknob. Vanitas looks to where is Naruto, but he didn't say anything and just summoned a portal again and walks through it. When the portal was gone, Naruto goes up to the door and see the doorknob taking a big yawn and a keyhole appears. Knowing what to do, Naruto summons his Keyblade, then points to it and a beam goes into it. Then there was a click and something came out of it. When the group caught up, Tifa asked, son, what happened? Naruto told them what happened, then handed the thing to Donald, who said it a gummy piece, but not one I have seen before. No, come on, it's time to leave. Then heads to the table that somehow repaired itself and has both potions on it. Naruto nodded and said, right behind you. As the group was walking down the hallway, when they first saw the rabbit, Tifa saw something that wasn't there when they first arrived, and it was a silver door, and asked, what is that door doing here, as it wasn't here we arrived. Donald looks at the door and says, you're right, and I don't know, then goes to opens it, but it wouldn't open. Maybe Ensid Sensei will know, we can ask him the next time we are on Traverse Town, Naruto said. Here he might, as he is very knowledgeable now. Off to the next world, Tifa said. Then the group left the world. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the Heartless. As Naruto and company was traveling to the next world, Naruto was sitting there with his eyes closed. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto was in his mindscape talking to Kairi to get to know her a bit better when Kurama entered and said, kid, we are about to reach the next world, so back to the real world. Then she disappeared. Naruto looks at Kairi and says, well, looks like I have to leave, so I will speak to you later. Kairi smiles and says thank for the help Naruto, after all I doubt I would have survived without you. Then Naruto begins to fade. Real world. Naruto opens his eyes and asks, so what is the world that we are approaching? The world called Deep Jungle, but we are not landing there, Donald said. Oh, and why not, Naruto asked. Because the king would never go on such a backwater world, Donald said. Wow, and here I was thinking that the king's royal mage would be honorable, Naruto said. Donald looks at Naruto and said, did you forget that we have an important mission? And what is that? As I am beginning to get the feeling that your mission doesn't align with mine, seeing as my mission is to save the world that I am able to. Our mission is to find the king and the key, we have found one of them, and now we just need to find the king, Donald said. Naruto looks at Donald and said, so you only care about finding the king? Well then that's fine, but know this, the first chance I get I am going leave, then that way you can look for your king, and I can help those in need. Then he reaches for the control stick and says, but in the meantime we are doing what needs to be done. Then there is the fact that I promised Kairi that I would help her find her friend, a boy named Riku. As Naruto was trying to get the stick, Donald wasn't giving up about leaving the world and said, hey, leave that, and as both Naruto and Donald were fighting for control, the ship shacks and heads to the world and they entered it, but as the ship was out of control, the group was separated and the last thing Naruto saw before blacking out Kurama was with Tifa and Goofy with Donald. Naruto woke up in a treehouse, rubbed his head while saying ow my head, then he looked up and his back crack and sees the hole that he came thought, then said wow what a hole, then he cracks his back and neck a few more times then says man, I sure hope the owner of this treehouse don't get too mad, if so I am going to reese that duck, Naruto said. Then he shrugs, then says well either way I better repair. But then as soon as he stood up he heard a light crackle of the wooden floor, so he quickly turns just in time to see a leopard leap at him, not wanting to hurt the animal too badly he summoned his Keyblade. The human and leopard had a duel, and when the leopard realized Naruto was a fighter she fled. While Naruto was watching the area that the leopard left to make sure she wouldn't come back, he then heard Saber flee, danger causing Naruto to look around. When Naruto looked up and sees a man in a loincloth holding a spear, then he says only if I have to be, after all if she hadn't attacked me, then I would have left her be. Then he asked, so are you the owner of this place? This place, the man repeated. Okay, so most likely raised monkeys or gorillas and just recently came in contact with other humans, Naruto though. Most likely, Kairi said. Have you seen anyone new in the past few days? A friend of mine has lost a friend, and so have I, Naruto asked, and when the man looked at Naruto in a questionable manner he said friends. Friends, the man replied. That's right, my direct first is a female whose name is Tifa and she has long black hair, well my friend's friend name is Riku and he has silver hair, Naruto said. Friend here, the man said. Naruto looks at the man then said I have a feeling that he is telling me important but I can't name it, shame I don't speak monkey, do you know who can help? Tarzan, the man introduced himself then says Tarzan go. I'm Naruto, Tarzan go I go, Naruto replied. Then they both left the treehouse and Tarzan jumped into the tree below and Naruto followed. Meanwhile in another part of the jungle, Donald and Goofy was sitting on a rock and the dog said gosh, where in the world are we? I sure hope Naruto and Tifa are okay. Ah, who needs the boy, we can find the king without him, Donald said as he goes to reach for this wand without looking he causing him touch the hair of a gorilla that was there. Noticing the different feeling, the duck said huh, and as he looks he comes face to face with a female gorilla, causing them both to scream. Then there was a rustling noise behind the duo caused them both to look. The gorilla sees the two are looking elsewhere, she runs away but in the process she drops a gummy piece. Then Donald looks over to where the gorilla had gone and saw the gummy piece and he said huh, isn't that, but he was interrupted as the rustling noise was getting louder. Then they saw a man wearing hunter's suit with a double chin and holding a double barrel shotgun. The man looks at the two anthropomorphic animals and said my word, the porter's world like to meet you, but he thinks man I would like to mount those two in my wall, but I can wait. Meanwhile in another part of the jungle, Tifa woke up to Kurama nudging her as she sits up. She asks Kurama, where am we? I don't know, but we are in some abandoned city, but there is life here, Kurama replied. Well then, I hope the inhabitants are friendly, Tifa said as she gets up. Of that I don't know, but I do know that they are watching us, Kurama said. So, let's see if their leader is willingly met with us, and I do hope Naruto is okay, Tifa said. Then they began to walk around. Of that you don't have to worry, he is tough. Back with Naruto, who landed in a campsite and Tarzan lead Naruto into a tent, and once they entered the tent and sees a woman around 20 years bent over fiddling with a camera and Tarzan said Jane. The woman turns around and says Tarzan. Then upon seeing Naruto she said oh I see you brought a friend. Well, I wouldn't say friend seeing as we just met about 5 minutes ago, Naruto said. Oh, so you're fluent in English, so you are not related to Tarzan, so are you here to study the gorillas, Jane said. Before Naruto could answer the hunter said highly doubtful. Goofy saw Naruto then said hey Naruto, how are you doing? Hey Goofy, I am good, thank you for asking. So have you seen Tifa or Kurama, Naruto said asked. No sorry, Goofy said. I see, that's a shame, but I am sure I will find them, Naruto said. Don't you mean we, Donald said. Well, I have to as I don't have a way to leave yet, Naruto said. Then the hunter left the tent while saying we have quite a few clowns, not much use for hunting the gorillas. Then said Jane walks over to the entrance while saying, Mr. Clayton, will you stop it with the hunting comments? How many times do we have to tell you are here to study the gorillas? Then she turns back to the group of three, then said, well, the more the merrier I suppose, so please make yourselves at home. Well, you don't have to worry as I will be staying as I need to look for something, so I be helping you with whatever you're doing, Naruto said. Well, so are we, Donald said. Naruto looks at Donald with a shocked look, then Goofy said, look what we found, then he showed him the gummy piece that the gorilla dropped. Naruto looks at the gummy piece, then said, isn't that a gummy? Goofy nodded and said, that's right. And there aren't many places that knows about the stuff that we know, so that means the king could be here, Donald said. Well, good luck with that, as I said I plan to stay until I find the keyhole and seal it and also find Tifa and Kurama, Naruto said. Naruto goes over to Jane and the latter said, so are you here studying the gorillas? Naruto shakes his head and says, I'm afraid not, Jane. So why are you here? What is your name anyway? Jane said. Oh, right, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am here to look for something, Naruto said. So, what are you looking for, Naruto? And that sound Japanese, but I can hear you speaking English so fluently, as if you have been speaking it your whole life, Jane said. I'm afraid I can't say on both accounts, Naruto said. Oh, and why not? Jane asked. Because you might think I am crazy, Naruto said. I doubt you can sound any crazier than my father who claims to see something red flying around, Jane said. Naruto smiles then says, okay, then you think you can hand the truth, then here it is, I am from another world and no, not an alien, not sure what to call it, and you can understand me is because I hold a magical weapon known as a Keyblade, which can translate my language to yours, and it also translates your language to mine, and I am looking for the keyhole that leads to this world's heart before the forces of darkness get into it. I see I might need to sit down for a bit, Jane said as she sat down. Naruto, how could you? You know we are not supposed to tell anyone about the other world, Donald said. Oh, like I care, she wanted to know so I told her, plus I am more concerned about this red thing that Jane's father claims to be seeing, Naruto said. Why would that be, Naruto? Jane asked. Well, simply put, it might be something dangerous or something that has ended up here when its world was destroyed and is flying around looking for being like us, Naruto said, then he points to him, Goofy and Donald. I see, so what will you do? Jane asked. Well, seeing as your father isn't here, I guess I will look for my friend and my friend's friend, Naruto said. Well, in that case, how about you give me a hand? You see, Tarzan was raised by gorillas, so communicating with him isn't easy, but he is learning at least, Jane said. So, I was right about him speaking gorilla when I asked him about my and Kairi's friend, so how have you been communicating with him? Naruto said. We have been using this projector, Jane said as she showed him a projector. Oh, I get it, you put the slides in, and you tell him what it is, right? Naruto said. Why, you are a smart one, Jane said. And you have patience to be able to teach Tarzan, Naruto said. Well, as I said, it isn't easy, so do you mind getting me the slides that I left on the counter? T equals on the other in one of the other tents, Jane said asked. Naruto shakes his head and says, nah, I don't mind. Then he left, then came back after 5 minutes, came back and asked, are these the slide you need? Jane takes them and says yes they are, thank you. Then Jane goes bought the slides. Then when they are done, Jane turns to Tarzan and said, well, Tarzan, but the man just shakes his head. Naruto slumps a little and said, oh, like it was ever going to be that simple. Then he straightens up and said, well, if it was that simple, then where would the fun be? Just then Clayton came in and said, if they are not there, young man, then they must be with the gorillas, because you see we have been here for some time and we have seen your friends, however Tarzan here refuses to take us there. Now Mr. Clayton, I don't think Tarzan would hide, Jane said. Then he should take us to see them, Clayton said to Jane, then turns to Tarzan, then says, take us to the gorillas, gorillas. Tarzan looks at Naruto, and before he could do anything, Naruto said, hey Hunter, do us all a favor and stop pestering the man. Can't you see that he is trying to protect his family, and who's to say that the people that I am looking for are with the gorillas? After all, it is a big jungle, so I will look elsewhere before going to place that I am not welcome. Tarzan looks at Naruto, then said, Tarzan, take Naruto friends. Only if you want to and not being pressured to do so, Naruto said. Tarzan, take friends, Tarzan said. Well, okay, then I thank you for this, Tarzan, Naruto said. Then he turns to Jane and said, I will be back, and if your father come back, keep him here. Oh, that won't be a problem, I will just say that someone want to help him get the red thing, Jan replied. Sweet, Naruto said, then turned to Tarzan and said, well, lead the way. Then Tarzan led them to meet the gorillas. Meanwhile, with Tifa and Kurama, they were walking around the city, and Tifa asked, so what are we dealing with? Well, judging by the scent that is all over the place, there are leopard all over the place, but something is, if Kurama said. How so? Tifa asked. I have no clue, Kurama replied, then her ears twitched, then said, and I guess we are about to find out. What makes you say that? Tifa asked. Tifa got her answer, but it wasn't from the vixen, but in the form of a woman wearing a small leopard print bikini and holding a leopard staff who asks so who are you and what are you doing in Opar? Well, I am Tifa and I am lost Tifa said. And how do I know you are not with those shadow creatures that has been showing up recently the woman asked. So, the heartless are coming here and they are after the keyhole Tifa said. So, you are with the creatures the woman said as the leopard eyes began to glow, then the heartless appeared and a portal and the armored male came out. Tifa sees the male and says so you're the one that fled when you saw Naruto, so who are you and what are you after? I am Vanitas and I am after the keyhole and the world's maiden and this time you will not stop me from getting the keyhole Vanitas replied. Well tough shit we will always try and save those in need so that will mean us sealing the keyhole and we will save the world maiden once we find the world that you and your cowardly people are on Tifa said. Vanitas laughs, then says good luck with it then he summoned another portal, then says well I would love to stick around, but I have things to destroy and people to kidnap, then walks though it then the heartless attacked. So, you are not with them the woman said as she defended herself. Told you so we arrived today, and can we talk about this later, Tifa said as she was attacking the heartless. Once all the heartless was dealt with the woman turned to Tifa and said so you said your name was Tina right? Actually, it's Tifa and the vixen here is Kurama, so who are you and what is this place Tifa asked. Right, I am La Queen and High Priestess of the city of Opar pleasure to meet you La introduced, then goes on to say, so what are those things? Well, I don't know much, but I will tell you what I do know to start off with the creatures are called heartless Tifa began telling La what she knows about the heartless. Once the explanation was done La said I see so how did you get here because from what Vanitas was saying you are not from this world then Tifa told her what happened to her world to how she landed on Opar then La gained a thoughtful look then said Tifa to right the wrong for what I did when he first me please follow me then she lead Tifa and Kurama to a cliff and upon looking down they was huge. Blue ship with silver edges and a red M then the queen said it just showed up out of the blue a few months back but seeing as you need it you can have it otherwise the jungle will just claim it. Thank you La now Naruto will be happy now that we don't have to rely on the gummy ship Tifa said. Well, I was about to attack you earlier, so this is my way of making it up to you now let's find your friend and acceptances, La said as the two humans and Fox walked away missing something black flying toward the ship. The Naruto's clones will be able to us the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original they can only destroy the heartless. When Naruto and his group just arrived near the nesting grounds, they saw two gorillas and a male and a female, then Naruto said wow, look at how big the male gorilla is. The male had a look of disappointment, then Tarzan stepped forward and said Kerchak I know the nesting ground are meant to be a secret, but I trust them too they need to go there because they need our help and I want to help them Kerchak didn't say anything, but he looked in a direction as if telling them something, then he walked off Tarzan didn't get the secret message, so he said in a sad tone Kerchak. Naruto walks up to Tarzan and said don't worry about it, you did what you can plus Kerchak might be helping us. Tarzan looks at Naruto and said what do you mean? What I mean is that before the gorilla walk if he look in a specific direction now let's see where he was looking, Naruto said before he jumps onto the branch that Kerchak was on and looked at the direction he looked and sees the treehouse, then says well looks like he wants us to go to the treehouse, then he and the group heads to the treehouse. Once they got to the treehouse they see a gorilla playing with a globe and Clayton already there and was aiming at the gorilla, seeing as Clayton was about to pull the trigger Naruto jumps through the window just as the hunter pulls the trigger and rushes over to the gorilla and jumps in front of her and takes the bullets, then the little scared gorilla runs of just as Kerchak walks in then Naruto looks at Clayton and said what's the big idea, then he passes out due to the hole in his abdomen. Tarzan goes up to Kerchak and said Kerchak wait please, but the gorilla just left. Don't worry about him for now let's get Naruto back to the camp, Goofy said as he went over to Naruto and picked him up as gently as he could, which got a nod from everyone but Clayton. Right behind you Donald said then he turns to Clayton and said as he jabs his wand into the man's back well get a move on. Alright no need to stab me you overgrown bit of poultry, Clayton said as he started to walk away. When they got back to the camp Jane came out of the tent and upon seeing Naruto with a hole in his abdomen she asked oh my what happened to Naruto? Clayton shot Naruto Tarzan answered. Not knowing what to do or say at what Tarzan just said, so Jane turns to the anthro animals and said so what happened? Before we tell you mind if we put Naruto in a bed Goofy said. Oh, right this way and I will have a look Jane said, then leads them into a tent, then went over to get the medical stuff. When Goofy places Naruto on the bed he turns to Jane and asks so will he make it? First let me check him over, Jane said as cuts Naruto's shirt, then she gasps as she sees Naruto body riddled with scars, then after an hour, she was warping Naruto up, then she said well Goofy by all means he should be dead, but he is alive Jane replied. Naruto was half awake heard what Jane said then said been though worse, then he passes out again. What did me mean by that? Jane asked herself before getting to work. Once she was done, she turned to Goofy and said, let's go outside and you can tell me what happened so that way we don't disturb Naruto. Sure, Goofy said before exiting the tent. Then he turned to Jane. When both Jane and Goofy was outside, they sat down at the table that the others was on and the female said, so what happened? Donald then said, well, Tarzan lead us to two gorillas, one he called Kerchak, but he didn't seem to like that fact that Tarzan was taking us to the nesting grounds, and so Tarzan spoke to them, but Kerchak didn't reply. Instead he looked in a direction which Naruto found out to be the treehouse, and so we headed there only to see Clayton was there and had his gun put and was aiming at a gorilla and my. Des Naruto saw that he was about to pull the trigger, so Naruto got in front of it and you know the result. Then he gestured to the tent that Naruto was in. Jane was not happy by what she just heard. Then she gets up and walks over to Clayton and gives him a slap, then say in an angry tone, Mr. Clayton, how can you do such a thing? Now Miss Porter, I wasn't aiming at the gorilla, Clayton said before thinking of something that could justify what he did. Then he thought of something, because I was aiming a snake that was slithering towards the gorilla. I don't care what you was aiming at because of you a sweet kind young man is now injured, so as of this moment you are not to go near the gorillas, Jane said still angry. Now you can't be serious, all this all because of one mishap, Clayton said. Mishap or not, you shot a human, Jane said giving Clayton a glare. Clayton then there was nothing he could so or say will change Jane's mind, said I will leave so you can clam down. Then he leaves and heads to a clearing that is just outside the campsite. Then he said, what the funk am I doing with these imbeciles? This is all because of those blasted gorillas. Show how I will hunt them, every single one of them, one way or another. I will hunt them down or I will die trying. Would you really, Hunter? A voice came from behind him, causing Clayton to jump and turn to come face to face with Vanitas. Clayton, who had his gun aimed at the armored individual, and asked, who are you? My name is Vanitas and I would like to help you hunt the gorillas, Vanitas said. I would thank you if you were doing it out of the goodness of your heart, Clayton stated as he lowered his gun. You're quite smart for a hunter, you're right, it isn't out of the goodness of my heart, seeing as I don't have any, Vanitas said. But because I don't like or do charity, so what do you want in return? Clayton asked. Well, I am looking for two things, and there are those that would get in my way, so I need you to look for the maiden of the world, as well as the world's keyhole, Vanitas said. I get why you need my help as I am the best hunter around, so you think I can hunt down this maiden and locate the keyhole, Clayton said. As I said, you are smarter than other hunters, I asked to do my bidding, Vanitas said. So, I am just some lackey to you to use as you see fit, Clayton said. Even though Clayton couldn't see it, he could feel that Vanitas was glaring at him. Then the armored teen said, yes, do you have a problem with that? Yes, I do, I am not some lackey, I am a hunter, Clayton said as he aimed his gun at Vanitas again. Vanitas looked at the gun, the laughed, getting a confused look from, and then the armored clad teen got himself under control. He said, well, I take back what I said about you being smarter than the other morons, as do you really think you little toy will hurt me? Then again, you won't live long enough to regret it. Well, I can see that me shooting you won't do any damage, but I doubt the other part, Clayton said. Oh, you really think that? Well, somehow, I'm not surprised you have noticed, Vanitas said. Noticed what? Clayton asked before he sees some movement in the corner of his eye and deciding to see what it was and was shocked to see that he was surrounded, then said, what the, when did they get here? They have always been there and they will attack the moment you squeeze that trigger, but should you agree, I will give you the ability to control them and they can help you hunt down the gorillas that you want to hunt down so bad, Vanitas said. Okay, say I was a little interested, what would happen if I say no? Clayton said. Vanitas laughed a little, then said as he summoned his keyblade, you act like you have a choice. Then he lunged forward and plunged the blade into Clayton, and the shock at what happened caused the hunter to pull the trigger, and that was the last thing Clayton remembered as his world fell into darkness. Then Vanitas opened a portal and effortlessly dragged Clayton though as he will be out for a day, all the while saying you will thank me for doing this. Then the portal closed. A few moments later, Jane, Tarzan, Goofy and Donald all rushed to see what Clayton was shooting at, and the moment they entered, Jane said, alright Mr. Clayton, what are you? Then when she sees that he wasn't there, then asked, where is he? No clue though, it appears he was dragged though something, as there is signs that someone was dragged though something, Donald said after looking around the area. Well, there is nothing we can do as we don't know where they went or what took him, so let's head back, seeing Daddy will be back soon from chasing whatever that red thing is, Jane said. Just as then group got into the camp, they see a short and slender man with fair skin, white hair and mustache, gray eyebrows, and green eyes. He wears a cream exploration shirt and blue bow tie and light brown pants, and he was holding a jar with a red creature inside which resembles a ladybug, and upon seeing the group he said, Janie, there you are, I finally caught it, showing the group the jar. That's great, Daddy, Jane said as she gets in close to the jar and said, well, hello there, aren't you cute? So what are you? Well, Jane, my name is Tiki and I am a Kwami and I represent creation and good luck. Then creature now named Tiki answered. So, what are you doing here? Jane asked. My world fell into darkness thanks to the heartless, Tiki said as she phased out the jar, shocking everyone. What do you mean your world? Jane's father asked. Well, Archimedes, you see the stars, Tiki said. Yes, I see them also. How do you know my name? Archimedes said. Don't tell them, it's forbidden to tell about other worlds, Donald said. I don't care, because of that I have lost my miraculous holder, Tiki said. Then she turned back to Archimedes and said, well, Archimedes is a Kwami. I have a few abilities now, what you don't know about them, but each star is a world, well, more specifically its heart. And then in a sad tone, and I am from one world that is gone. Naruto, who had gotten up and was stumbling out of the tent when he heard what Tiki said, then he limps over, leans on the table, then said, well, Tiki, if you want you can come with me until you find whoever you are looking for. Before Tiki could say anything, Jane went up to Naruto and said, you should be resting as you have been shot. Well, I came here because I have a mission to do, and once that is done then I will rest, Naruto said, then turns to Tiki and said, so who about it? You really mean it? Tiki asked. Of course I do, I try to mean what I say, Naruto said, only to hear a squeal and feel something like a hug on his cheek, then said, I will take that as you will come. Tiki let go the said, I will thank you for this. Think nothing of it, glad to help, Naruto said. So, there are other worlds, Jane said. Of course there are, as I am from one, Naruto said. Then he points to Donald and Goofy and said, so are those two, and even though Donald doesn't like to us talking about. And with good reason, it can cause chaos, the duck said. Anything can cause chaos, but with the right equipment and circumstances the keybearers can be something like police to all the world, Naruto said, before realizing what he said, then said, well, that can be my new dream. What can be your new dream? Goofy said. Naruto turns to Goofy and said, well, it will be stationed in Travis Town, make a multi-world police department. So, what will that entail? Jane asked. Well, mostly people that slips thought a tear and help them back to their homeworld, but we can handle threats that the world can't handle, Naruto said. How do you know all this, seeing as a week ago you didn't even know about other worlds? Donald said. That might be true too. Did you think that I wouldn't read to make sure we are ready in case we have another worder on a world that we visit? Naruto said. Well, he does have you there, Donald, Goofy said, then turns to Naruto and asks, and when did you read up on this sort of thing? Well, when I first got on your ship I noticed you had a computer on it, then when we went into Wonderland, I left a shadow clone behind and read up on the stuff I am meant to know, and what I think is stupid, Naruto said. Then he looks around and sees someone is missing, then he said, so where is the bastard with the evil mustache? Naruto replied, lying about how he knows this stuff. Well, we don't know, we heard a shot, and when we got to the area, he was gone, though we think he was dragged off somewhere, Jane said, knowing he was speaking about Clayton. So I wasn't dreaming about the gunshot and that pool, Naruto said, and before anyone could say anything, monkey like Heartless jump out of the bamboo and Naruto said, great, just what I needed, these guys showing up. Then he turned to Jane and Archimedes and said, you two get to safety, and when Jane and Archimedes went to hide with Tiki following them, Naruto summoned his Keyblade, and with Goofy, Donald and Tarzan went to fight the Heartless. After making quick work of the Heartless, Jane came and said, what was those things? Those things are called heartless, and they are the physical manifestation of the darkness that lives in people's hearts, and all they do is seek out and consume hearts, all the while wanting to returning to the greatest heart of all the worlds, a place which resides deep in the realm of darkness, also known as Kingdom Hearts, Naruto explained. Donald was looking at Naruto with a questionable look, while thinking, how does he know that, because that knowledge is not on the onboard computer. Then Tarzan said, should go to bed, jungle danger night. Well, that might be a good idea seeing as Naruto is bleeding again, Jane said as she looks over to Naruto, making sure he didn't overexert himself. Naruto looks down and sees his bandages was turning red, then he said, well, I was wondering why I was feeling a bit tingly all the while waving of the pain. Jane walks up to Naruto and then grabs his ear and said, well, you are coming with me so I can change it, then she leads him into a tent by pulling on his ear. While changing the bandages, Jane looks over Naruto's body again and asks, what did you mean by what you said earlier? Naruto tilts his head a little, then asks, what do you mean, what did I say? While I was warping you up, I answered a question that Goofy asked when he brought you. I said that you should be dead, not realizing you was half awake, and you said that you've been though worse. Well, if you want to know then I will tell you, but you have to be sure because once you find out what I meant you will want to know about my other scars, Naruto said. Well, I have to admit that I am curious about them already, Jane said. Naruto just sighed, then said, well, what I meant by what I said was in my world before I discovered that I was a keybearer I was a shinobi or ninja, and one of the last mission I did was to retrieve a teammate that went rouge because of his desire to get strong, and while I was holding back he used a technique that is designed of assassination, and he jammed two of them into my chest, and what heart was I saw him as a friend. Jane gasps, then said, so what of the other scars? Naruto sighs and looks to one side before saying, well, when I was younger, I was hated for something that was out of my control and was used as a scapegoat. Well, I was going to ask Tai what for, but I don't want to open that wound, so when you are ready you can tell me, Jane said as she gives Naruto a kiss on the cheek, then she walks out. Naruto has a look of shock and slowly touches his cheek and said to himself, thanks Jane, you are one of the greats, before laying down on the bed. Tiki flies over to Naruto and asks, mind if I sleep with you Naruto? Naruto looks at Tiki and said sure, and Tiki smile and lays on him chest and they both drift off to sleep. Outside, Jane was just outside the door with a blush as she hears what Naruto said about her, then she says I can't believe I did that, referring to the kiss she gave Naruto. Archimedes, who was walking past, heard what Jane said, asked what did you do my dear? Jane yelped in surprise and said it's nothing daddy, good night, then she rushes over to her tent. Watching Jane going to her tent, Archimedes shrugs, then says well if she says so, then heads to his then, and it wasn't long before everyone was in the land of dreams. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the heartless. When the next day came, when Naruto woke up, he gently scooped Tiki up and gently placed her on his pillow, then exited the tent and summoned his Keyblade and started to train. 5 minutes later, Tiki woke up and flew out of the tent looking for Naruto to ask him questions, and when she found him, she stopped dead in shock, and once she shock was over, she rushed over and asked Naruto, what are you doing up this early? Naruto stops training and looks at Tiki, then said yeah, and I have been one about 2 weeks now, nothing much, just training, so I can relearn everything and I to do with the Keyblade. What do you mean? Tiki asked. I will tell you some other time, after all I doubt you was looking for me to talk about me, Naruto said. Actually, I did, Tiki replied. Oh well then, that changes things, and to answer your question, in a past life I was a keybearer and I didn't know about it until about 2 weeks ago, Naruto said. I see, so how did you find out? Tiki asked. Well, when I was on training trip with someone that I thought I could trust, then my travel companion and I spoke, and I told her about a dream I had been having, and she told me that I might be a keybearer, then she gave me a jutsu that I could use to get to a world that might have someone, but in order to use it without protection, could be suicidal for a normal shinobi, Naruto said. Well, for what it's worth, I am glad that you didn't use it, Tiki said. What makes you think I didn't use you? Naruto asked. What, but you are here and the jutsu was suicidal, Tiki said. No, I said Cloud BN for a normal shinobi, and I wasn't normal as I one of the last clan members that is known for a slight healing factor to the point that we could live well into 3 figures, then I was a Jinchuriki, Naruto said. Knowing what a Jinchuriki was, Tiki said, I see, so what was your world like? Well, at the moment I don't know the name of the world that I came from, so I am Elementala, and it's not really a peaceful world, as there is always some sort of war going on, so what was your world like? And I don't know how it happened, but it was sealed off via an accelerated time, but a time flow is back to normal when I used the jutsu, Naruto said. But if that's the case, then the use of that technique would have been even more dangerous, Tiki said in a scolding tone. Hey, give me a break, at the time I didn't know that it would be twice as dangerous, Naruto said. And would you have done it if you did? Tiki asked, and when Naruto didn't answer, she knew Naruto's answer, then she said in a scolding tone, why would you do something so stupid? To get away from someone that was just using me for him own plans, and there is nowhere I could hide as he has a spy network, plus, I want to reach the potential my botch and think I have, so what is your miraculous holder like? Naruto said. Well, Marinette is a sweet girl that's not only my miraculous holder, but is also the guardian of the miracle box. And I am guessing this miracle box is a box that hold the miraculouses that are not in use, Naruto said, which got a nod from Tiki, then the shinobi returned to training. An hour later, Jane woke, she exited her tent, she was choked to see Naruto with his Keyblade training, and she said as she stomped over to him, Naruto, what do you think you're doing? Naruto stops after a swing, then looks at Jane who was coming over, and said, what does it look like I'm doing? I am training, as there is always room to grow and to get stronger. Well, I don't care about that, you need to rest and let your wound heal, Jane said. But it is healed, a wound like that is usually healed after a good night's sleep, Naruto said as he went back to training. I don't believe you're just saying that so you can get back to training, Jane said. Naruto willed the Keyblade to disappear before saying, then let me show you, then he removed his shirt. Seeing his well-toned but scared chest caused Jane to blush, and up on see the bullet wound that he got the day before was gone, she was shocked that the blush disappeared and she shouted what, and then in a normal voice as she examined the new scar, but that's impossible, something like that should take weeks to heal. Well, I do have a healing factor that has helped me out a lot over the years, Naruto said. Before Naruto could say anything more, he was interrupted by Archimedes as he stumbles out of his tent, the saying what happened, what was that scream just now? It's nothing daddy, just something that is meant to be impossible, Jane said. Really, like what? Archimedes asked. Well, the gunshot that Naruto got from Clayton yesterday is all healed, Jane said. Well, let's see, Archimedes said as he got a bit close to Naruto. Sir, could you please back up? Naruto asked, nervous at how close Archimedes was. Well then, how about you tell us who a wound like a gunshot heals over a night, Jane said. Well, as I said, Jane, I have a healing factor that is quite advanced to the point that I will live till around 200 years, Naruto said, shocking everyone. But that is impossible, Archimedes said. Well, I am from a clan that is known to live till 150 years, and we can be very deadly to the point it took 3 major villages to take out their village, and they still took out a third of the forces, Naruto said with pride for his clansmen. I see, that is impressive, Jane said, then goes on to ask, so what is the plan for today? Well, I am not sure about Donald and Goofy, but I have 2 things to do, Naruto said. And what are they, Archimedes asked. The first thing is to find my companions, and the second thing is to find the keyhole, and I can start them once breakfast is over with and Tarzan gets back, Naruto replied. Mind if I join you, Naruto, Tiki asked. Sure, I don't mind, after all if Marinette is here you will find her, Naruto said. Thanks, Tiki said as she flew over to Naruto and landed on her. Well, I will need to ask Tarzan to guide us around the world, Naruto said as he walked over to the kitchen and started to cook. Naruto, you don't have to do that, Jane said as she goes over to the makeshift kitchen. I know that, but I want to think of it as thank for putting up with me and my former party, Naruto said as he continued to sort the meal out. After an hour and a half everyone had their breakfast and Tarzan showed, and Naruto said, "Het Tarzan, can you be my guide, as I need to look for 2 companions, and I need to look for something," and when Tarzan nodded, Naruto said thank you, then they left, and Donald and Goofy decided to tag along. As the small group was looking for the Tifa and Kurama as well as the keyhole, they were running into Heartless, but they was quickly dealing with them when they came to a ledge overlooked Opar, then Tiki said, "Do you think your friends will be there?" "I am not sure, after all it looks abandoned," Naruto said, and as if to have proven wrong there was an explosion inside the city, then Naruto said, "Well, it's not as abandoned as I thought, so maybe there is someone there that could help use in our search," then he and Tarzan jumps down, and Naruto pulls a kunai. "Gosh, why didn't he summon his Keyblade?" Goofy asked. "Don't know," Donald said, then they followed. When Naruto and Tarzan got to the area that had the explosion they saw Tifa, Kurama and the leopard men fighting the Heartless, and at the back of the army was Clayton, one a chameleon like Heartless, and Vanitas. Then Naruto said as he put the kunai away and pull out the materia that held Kurama's power. "Well, then that changes things," then he jumps and summons his Keyblade and held out his other. As the orb burst into flames, then they went to the vixen, then Naruto said, "Kurama, me and you take care of the 2 people, while Tarzan, then when they get here Donald and Goofy will help Tifa and your new friend," and he land on her back. "You got it, Naruto," Kurama said, then she rushed towards the chameleon. Before they clashed, Naruto jumped up and swung his Keyblade at Vanitas, who blocked the strike with his own Keyblade, and Naruto said, "Well, it's so nice to finally meet you, my dark self. And I feel the same, my light self, but please call me Vanitas," Naruto Vanitas said as they parried each other, but they were interrupted because Clayton shot at them. Then the armored teen said, "Hey, watch where you are shooting." Clayton smiled and said, "Sorry, but I will never be an underling." Then he turned to Naruto and said, "Now I wonder how the others if they learn that you and Vanitas is one and the same," all the while thinking he will beg me not to tell them, and I can use that to my advantage in hunting the gorillas. "Then tell them I was planning to do it eventually," Naruto said, not really caring that there is 2 of him out in the universe. Surprised by what Naruto said, Clayton said, "What, but ain't you afraid that they will abandon you?" "Wouldn't be the first time something like that has happened, and I know it will happen again," Naruto said with a shrug. "I can vouch for that," Vanitas replied. "I know what you is, I know sooner or later you and I will have to fight to create the X-Blade that he so desires, and should I win that fight, he will betray me. So, I take that when I had Yen Sid unlock my memories when I was Ventus, it also affected you?" Naruto asked. "Was this around a few hours after we was able to leave our world?" Vanitas asked. "Yes, it was," Naruto replied. "So that's what happened. I was wondering how I remember things from when I was also called Vanitas," Vanitas replied. Then he said, "Well, I have to go as I have other world to see," Vanitas said before giving Naruto a kick in the abdomen. Then he summons a portal and walks into it, but not before dropping a bomb which goes off the moment the portal closes, and it sends Naruto flying and the Keyblade disappeared. While in a daze, Naruto watches as Clayton walks over to him with his gun pointed at him, and he hears Clayton say something, but he couldn't hear properly due to the ringing in his ears. Just as Clayton was about to pull the trigger, one of Kurama's tails hit him, then she walked over to Naruto with one of her tails Heartless warped around its neck and asked Naruto, "Are you okay?" Naruto was fingering his ears, then he shouted, "What did you say, Kurama?" Then a few seconds later his hearing was back to normal, then he asked, "What did you say, Kurama?" "I ask, are you alright, but I can see that you are now," Kurama said, before slamming the chameleon in front of her and Naruto, before saying, "Now if you please." "Right," Naruto said as he resummoned his Keyblade, then kills the Heartless, then he said, "Now let's help the other," then he gets back on Kurama, then the vixen charged into the massive Heartless, then Naruto said Shadow Clone Jutsu to make an army himself, then he said charge as he ran into the. After a few minutes, the then Heartless was all but wiped out, and the ones that was left was quickly dealt with, then Naruto walked over to the group, then Tifa said, "Here gave you been Naruto." Well, when I landed in this world, I was in a treehouse then was attacked by a normal leopard. After fighting it off I met Tarzan who took me to a campsite and been there since then, so what about you? Well, basically the same as you, but I fell just outside the city of Opar, as well as meeting La here, and after a little disagreement, almost got into a fight with her if not for Vanitas, and as an apology, she showed me this, Tifa said before walking away with Naruto following behind. As Tifa was leading Naruto to the ship, Naruto asked, so Tifa, what did you want to? You will know soon enough, plus I thought you might like view back there, Tifa replied with a smirk as she was swaying her hips once in a while. Shikamaru was right about women, they are troublesome, Naruto mumbled. What was that, Naruto? Tifa asked, then she said, well, you can tell me later as we are here. Naruto walks up to the ledge and sees the ship, then asks, cool ship, so what about it? Well, this is what La is going to give us, Tifa said. Really, Naruto asks. Yeah, but I have been trying to get in but it's locked, Tifa said. Well then, it's a good thing I have the key to get in, Naruto said before walking toward the ship. As Naruto was walking to the ship, Tiki flew out from where she was hiding with excitement. Then Naruto asks, what's the matter, Tiki, you seem excited. Oh, it's just that I can feel my miraculous, Tiki replied. Wait, you can feel them, Naruto asks. Only the earrings that I am connected to, and I need to be near them to feel them, Tiki replied. So, who is your new friend, Naruto? Tifa asks. Oh, Tifa, this is Tiki Akwami. Tiki, this is Tifa, my companion that I mentioned this morning, Naruto replied. Tiki faces Tifa, then said, it is very nice to meet you. Likewise, Tifa said as she held out a finger to, she can shake Tiki's little hand. When the small group, Naruto summoned the Keyblade, points it to the ship, then opened, then a beam shot from the blade and hit the ship, then a ram came down, then they entered the ship. When they entered they decided to split up. As Naruto was looking around, he ran into a slender girl. A hat was around his age, and she had a slightly light skin tone, medium-length black hair with blue reflections that is always seen tied back in pigtails, pink lips, bluebell eyes, and light freckles on both sides and the bridge of her nose, and he asked, hi there, I am Naruto Uzumaki, who are you? I am Marinette Dupain Cheng, nice to meet you too, Marinette said before she was attacked by a red blur. Oh, so you're Marinette, well I must say you're quite cute, Naruto said, making Marinette blush. Thank you, Marinette said before she said, wait, how did you? Dika said that ship was on lockdown until someone find the key. Okay, two things, the first is who is Dika and second, I kinda have the key, Naruto said. Before Marinette could reply they heard, greetings, I am the AI of the Astro Mega. Nice, so what is AI anyway? Naruto asked. You mean you don't know what artificial intelligence is? Marinette asked. No, after I come from a world that isn't very advanced with technology-wise, Naruto said. Naruto, I have scanned you, but I don't sense the key to the ship, so how can you unlock it? Dika asked. Well, you could say that I have a skeleton key, Naruto said. Please explain, as no skeleton key should be able to work, Dika said. Well, it would be best to show you, Naruto said before summoning his Keyblade. So, you are a keybearer, that's good to know, as you can help me get of this world, Dika said. I will as soon as I find the keyhole, then that way, I don't have to worry about this world falling into darkness, speaking of which I need to go, Naruto said, then he turns to leave. As Naruto was leaving, Dika said, Naruto, wait, I know where the keyhole is. Naruto stops, then said, sweet, how do you know where it is anyway? I have been here long enough to find it, plus I have had Marinette and the Quemis help to locate it, Dika said. So can I have the location too? I can lock it and say bye to Jane and her father, Naruto asked. Then once he had the location he was left after informing Tifa what he was doing. After an hour and a half had gone by, Naruto returned, and with Jane, who was told to go by her father, and while he could stay in Opar with La, who seemed to be interested in Tarzan, he told Jane to get in the ship while he walked to the front. Then he heard Tifa say, thought a mic, alright Naruto, we can hear you, what do you want us to do? I want you to be ready because the moment I open the portal it will only last a few seconds, so let me know when you are ready, Naruto said. After a few minutes he heard Tifa say, okay, we are ready. Great, Naruto said as he summoned his Keyblade, then he concentrated, then the tip of it began to glow, then once he thought it was enough, he shot it at a mountain, and a large portal opened. Unfortunately for Naruto, he didn't know that the portal of that size would cause a vacuum strong enough to suck him in. Then the ship followed with 3 worried girls on. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the heartless. Outside the jungle world known as Deep Jungle was 2 ships. One was a big blue ship. Inside this ship was 3 girls whose names are Tifa, Jane and Marinette, and they were looking around the ship for something or someone, but they couldn't find who whatever they were looking for. Then Marinette said, I didn't think Naruto is here. Then where could he be? Jane asked. I don't know, maybe Yen Sid might know, Tifa said. Who is Yen Sid and why does he sound familiar? Marinette asked. Maybe your master mentioned him before, as he is a powerful mage and a former keybearer, and the one that helped Naruto remember and unlock his Keyblade, Tifa said. Then she said to Dika, Dika, do you the name of the worlds and their locations? I do, Tifa, Dika replied before bringing up a hologram of the universe. That's great, can you take us to Travis Town? Tifa said. Adedika said before the ship started to move. But Naruto, who was knocked out in a crater that is by a rundown building, and when he was coming to, he saw a blurry girl a few years older than him saying, "Excuse me, but are you okay?" Naruto shakes his head to get rid of the drowsiness away, then he said, "How the funk did I forget that if you make a portal that big there will be a backdraft." Then he looks at the girl with clear eyes, sees she has red hair and is wearing a green coat, then says, "Don't worry about me, I have been the worst." Then he looks around then says, "Well, I hope you don't live here, because if you did I would fire the people that maintains the building." "I don't, well at least I think I don't, so who are you anyway?" the girl said. "The name is Naruto Uzumaki, and you could say I am a traveler of sorts, and you are?" Naruto replied. "Well, I am not sure of my birth name is, but people call me Anya," Anya said. "So how long has it been since it happened?" Naruto asked. "Well, it was 10 years ago," Anya said in a sad tone. Naruto caught the tone, then said, "I can properly take a shot at what your dream and it's either your memory back or meet your family again." "That's right, how did you know?" Anya said. "Well, I might not have amnesia, but I do know what it's like not knowing who your parents are, because I am an orphan," Naruto said. "Oh, I am sorry about it," Anya said while covering up her mouth. Naruto waves it off then said, "Don't worry about it, so do you have any clues on where we are going?" "Well, I do have this necklace that I have had since I was found and it says together in Paris," Anya said, then she realized on what Naruto said then said, "Hey, what do you mean we?" "Well, I am going to help you find your family or get your memory back, preferably both, but I can settle with getting you to your family," Naruto said. "You don't have to do that," Anya said. Naruto nods then said, "I know that, but people like us who don't know who we truly are need to stick together, so you are stuck with me." "Oh no, Puka," Anya said as she remembered about her dog. "Who is Puka?" Naruto asked. "A stray dog that helped me when I was feeling a bit indecisive, and he went inside the house," Anya said as she points to the house as she walks to the main entrance. "Well then let's go and get him," Naruto said, breaks the planks of wood, then they entered and begins to look around with Puka running around. As they were looking around, Anya was getting the feeling that she was here at some point and said, "This place, it's like a memory from the dreams that I have." "Well, that's good, so do what you have to do to try and remember what you can," Naruto said. Anya, who was looking at a silvery vase with bears and swans on, looks at Naruto and nods, then she looks back at face, then she begins to sing "Dancing Bears, Painted Wings. Things I almost remember." Then she goes into the main hall. And a song someone sings. "Once upon a December. Someone holds me safe and warm. Horses prance through a silver storm. Figures dancing gracefully. Across my memory." Naruto, who had Puka next to him, was watching from the landing, went through a few hands seal, then he said, "Jinjutsu. Dancing memory." Then the pictures that was high up puff out, the ghost-like figures came out of them, then Naruto and Puka went down, as Anya was going to the floor to interact with the illusion. "Someone holds me safe and warm. Horses prance through a silver storm. Figures dancing gracefully. Across my memory." Naruto continues down the stairs. He said Henge and his orange clothing change into what the ghosts was wearing, then he joins Anya, whose clothing also changed into a yellow dress with a matching tiara and a pearl necklace, then they started to dance together, while another Anya continued the song. "Far away, long ago. Glowing dim as an ember. Things my heart used to know. Things it yearns to remember." And a song someone sings. "Once upon a December." Once the song finishes, the illusion vanishes, then Anya said, "Sorry about that, I don't know what came over me. Think nothing of it, after all I did say do what you have to do to remember, and I think because of that song, we might have a few clues on who you are also. If we somehow don't find your family, you can always get them to find you, as you can do very well as a singer," Naruto said. "Do you really mean that, and you do really have some clues on my past, and what did you do while I was singing?" Anya asked. "Well, they are both a lengthy answer, but I will answer the second question first, seeing as I have a bit to say about the first one," Naruto said. Then when Anya nodded, Naruto said, "Well, I have to ask, have you ever wondered what the stars are when you look up at them at night?" "I have, so does a lot of people," Anya said. "Well, what would you say is I said that each and every star you see on a clear night is a heart of a world," Naruto said. Anya looks at Naruto and said, "Not that I don't believe you, but how do you know this?" "Well, in this lifetime I have been 4 of them, and that not included to Mu Homeworld, but hey, I just started the journey," Naruto said. "What do you mean this lifetime?" Anya asked. "Well, that's a bit complicated, but for starters, until a couple of weeks ago my world was sealed to form the others, and the way out was to use a jutsu that is basically suicide too. When I used it, I corrected the flow of time," Naruto said. "What do you mean?" Anya asked. "Well, my was going 1.5 times faster, then it should be to 10 years was out here, 15 years in there," Naruto said. "Still don't get it," Anya said. "Okay, how's this? I am 15 years old and I was reincarnated 10 years ago," Naruto said. "Now I get, and you was right, it is complicated," Anya said. Anyway, I came from a ninja world where people who train hard enough can use a power that is inside them called chakra, and they can do amazing stuff like walk on any surface, use some of the element, and cast illusions like I just did, Naruto said. Well, that sound cool, Anya said. Then she asks now about my first question. Before Naruto could answer, they heard someone say, "Hey, what are you two doing in here?" Then look to see a man about Anya's age and an older fat man. "What we are doing here have nothing to do with you, plus we are leaving," Naruto said, then turns to Anya the said, "Let's go, and I can tell you more on our way to Paris." "Okay," Anya said. Then they both turned to leave. Then man, not having any of it said as he ran down the stairs, "Hey wait," then the fat man follows the younger man, and when the younger man was at the bottom of the stairs he said, hey, stop, which both Naruto and Anya did. Then the man said, "Now how did you two get in here?" Naruto and Anya turned to answer the man, and as Anya was turning she was unknowingly next to a family picture that had a girl that was around 7 or 8 who looked like Anya. When the man saw this, he froze in shock. Then Naruto said, "We came in through the door, how else though? You might have come through a window, so what can we do for you?" When the fat man caught up, younger man said, "Please give us a moment." Then they went down the stairs, then the younger man said, "Do you see what I see?" Then he points to Anya. "No," the fat man replied, only for the younger man to move his glasses. Then the fat man said, "Yes, now I can." "Are you Dimitri?" Anya asked. "Well, that all depends on who looking for him," the man replied. "Well, my name is Anya, and people say you are the man to see if you need identification," Anya said as the man was circling her. Then Anya said, "Hey now, why are you circling me? Are you some kind vulture?" "Oh, he is the worst type of vulture of in the world," Naruto said as he watches the man. "Oh, and what would that be?" Naruto Anya asked. Before Naruto could answer, the man said, "Well, I am Dimitri and you mentioned about traveling." "That's right, I would like to go to Paris," Anya said. "You would like to go to Paris?" Dimitri said in a little too happy tone. To the side, Naruto was watching Dimitri turn to the fat man who was giving Puka a fuss to speak to him about something, then thought, "What are you up to, Dimitri?" Then Dimitri walk over to Anya, then asks, "Oh Anya, what's your last name?" "Well, this might sound crazy, but I don't know it," Anya said. "I was found wandering around when I was 8 years of age." "And what about before you were 8?" Dimitri asked. "I know it's strange, but I have very few memories formed before I was 8," Anya said. "That's perfect," Dimitri said. "But I do have a clue, and that is Paris," Anya said while looking at her necklace. Then she looks at the two men and asks, "So can you two help me or not?" "Now that is a coincidence because we are also going to Paris," Dimitri said. Then he holds 4 tickets, then said, "And we have 4. Then he throws one of the tickets, said, "Sorry and mean 3 tickets to Paris, but unfortunately the last one is for her." Then point to the painting, then says, "Anastasia." Then they grabbed her, then started to drag her out of the mansion, all the while telling her their plan. Then Anya said, "Now wait a minute, are you telling me that I could be the missing Anastasia?" "Well, it's possible because I have seen thousands of girls all over the country and not one of them look like Grand Duchess as you," Dimitri said. "Okay, that does it. I knew you both was crazy, but now that settles it," Anya said before she walks away. "And why now? You said so yourself you don't remember before you were 8," Dimitri said. Then the fat man still holding Puka said, "And no one knows what happened to Anastasia." "You said you're looking for family in Paris," Dimitri said. "And her only family member currently lives in Paris," the fat man said. "Have you ever thought of there could be a possibility?" Dimitri asked. "What, that I could be royalty?" Anya asked, which got a nod from the two men. Then she asked, "Can you give me a moment to speak to my friend?" When Dimitri nodded, she went over to Naruto, then asked, "So what do you think, Naruto?" "I think it's a possibility for you to be a noble, as you have said you faintly remember horses prance through a silver storm and figures dancing gracefully, both indicate you belong to the upper class," Naruto said. "Is that what you mean by you have a clue on finding my family?" Anya asked. "Yes, but the key is when you sang and a song someone sings once upon a December," Naruto said. Then he sees her face, then said with a smile, "I see you have made up your mind." "I have, but only if you come with me, as I am not sure if I can trust these two," Anya said. "Well, that make 2 of us, and I know what these 2 are as well as what they are planning," Naruto said. "Who are they and what is their plan?" Anya asked. "Well, these 2 are common and they plan to use you in their latest scheme," Naruto said. "Princess Anastasia," Anya said, which Naruto just nods, then asks, "And you will come with me, right?" "I said I will help you find your family and I always try and keep my promises, so you are stuck with me until you know who you really are, even if you tell me to funk off," Naruto said. "Thank you," Anya said. Then she goes over to the 2 men and said, "Alright, I will come with you, but Naruto come with me," then points to the blonde shinobi. "And if we said no?" Dimitri asked. "Then I won't go with you, seeing as I won't go anywhere without my friend," Anya said. "But we only have 3 tickets," Dimitri said, forgetting about the one that he threw away earlier. "Well, lucky for me there was a moron that thought it was a good idea to throw one away," Naruto said as he held the ticket up. Dimitri growls, then said, "Alright, fine, he can come." Then they all started to leave the mansion. Meanwhile up above them there was a white bat, and he said Anastasia, yeah, there is one problem there fella, Anastasia is dead, just like the rest of the Romanovs. As he was looking at the leaving party, a flask behind him started to glow, and something came out, then he turns to that came out of the flask, asked it, what do you think my friend, then he jumped back to the flask, just as another thing came out. Realizing what was happening, the bat jumps off the ledge, then said, you have got to be kidding, you expect me to believe that this thing woke up just because some weirdo claims some random girl is a Romanov? There was a bit more smoke as several figures, then the bat said, alright, enough already, I get the message, so enough of the smoke people and the glowing. Then he realized something, then said, if this is alive then that means Anastasia is alive. Then he looked at the people just as Anya and Dmitri was arguing about Puka. He looks at Naruto, then gasps as the blonde was looking right at him. Then the next thing he knew there was a kunai next to him, then said note to self, don't mess with the blonde. Back on the ground, Anya saw Naruto do something, then asked, hey Naruto, what's wrong? Naruto looked at where the bat was for a few more seconds before turning to Anya, then said, don't worry, I just thought we was being watched, but it probably was a rat. Then they left the mansion. When they got to the Terrence station they handed the tickets over and was showed to their coach. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the heartless. As Naruto was helping Anya, the Astro Megaship arrived at Traverse Town, and Tifa said, Dika, can you teleport us to Yen Sid's tower? Of course, and there will be a marker too, you can use it to return to the ship and you can get there via the tubes, but I can okay 5 markers, 1 for each tube, and that is on for each world, Dika said. So, you leave a marker on one world, does that get rewritten if you make another one on another world? Jane asked. No, it does not, as each we approach I create a blank slate for each world and I can leave 5 makers, and then when we leave the world I place the slate in my memory banks, and when we approach a world that we have been to before I just pull up the slate and that restores the markers, Dika explained. That is so cool, now let's go, Marinette said as she goes out the door, then she comes back and asked Dika, what color tube is it? Tifa laughs a bit, then said, Dika, can you please leave a marker in a place called 7th Heaven as well? I can, but may I ask why? Dika asked. Well, the 7th Heaven bar is my bar, and I will need to get there as soon as I come back to make sure Scroll and Yuffie haven't destroyed it, though I am sure it will be fine as I had left Aerith in charge, Tifa said. Now then, for the tube to the 7th Heaven bar is the red one, and the black tube will take you to the Tower of Yen Sid, Dika said. Then the 3 girls left and used the black tube. On Travis Town World, Tifa, Marinette, Jane and Kurama was walking up to the Tower of Yen Sid, and Tifa was about to knock when the door opened by itself, causing Marinette to yelp and jump into Jane's arms, but the sudden weight caused them both to hit the floor. Then the old wizard appeared, then he said, hello there Tifa, Marinette, Jane and Kurama. How do your names, sir? Marinette asked. Well, I know of you, Marinette, guardian of the miracle box, and I have also been keeping tabs on our favorite keybearer, Yen Sid said. So do you know where the others miraculous are, seeing as I have only the earrings of creation and the ring of destruction? Marinette asked as she showed the items. Unfortunately, I don't know as they are scattered across then worlds, Yen Sid. So, Yen Sid, you know why we are here? Tifa asked. Yen Sid nods and said that you are here to see if I know where Naruto is, and when Tifa nods, he continued, he is on a world called Old Russia, and he is helping a princess who has lost her memory. Thank you, Master Yen Sid, Tifa said as she turns to leave. Then as she was walking out the tower she remembered something, so she turns to the wizard and asked, Master Yen Sid, can I ask you something that we found on the first world we visited, and I think Naruto found another one while we was on Deep Jungle. You want to know about the door that appeared while you was leaving Wonderland, don't you? And no, Naruto does as well, Yen Sid said. That's right, we do, Tifa said. I will tell you, but you will need to tell Naruto as he will continue to summon them, Yen Sid said. So, what are they and how come we couldn't open it? Tifa asked. They are known as the World Door, and when I was beginning my Keyblade training, I heard one of my teachers said that one day the worlds will be connected, but refused to believe it, but I however thought it might be possible when I became a master. I leaned of a myth amongst keybearers, and that myth is World Doors, and they can only appear when the bearer come forth, Yen Sid. And what is the bearer? Marinette asked. I suspect the one that can wield the X-Blade, Yen Sid answered. And what is this X-Blade? Jane asked. According to legend, the X-Blade was the first Keyblade ever known to be used, and it is said to be the key that can open and control the Kingdom Hearts, which is said to be hidden in the center of the universe, as it is the heart of all worlds, Yen Sid answered. So, Naruto is the bearer of this legendary Keyblade known as the X-Blade, Kurama said. Then she sighed, then said with a little chuckle, well, he is known to be the unpredictable ninja back in Elementia. Well then girls, we have our destination, so let's move out, Tifa said, then turns to Yen Sid and said, thank you for your help, it was a great help. It's no problem at all, after all that is why I am here, Yen Sid said, and with that the girls started to leave the tower, the wizard said. Once on board the Astro Megaship, Tifa said, alright Dika, take us to the world known as Old Russia. Of course, Dika said as she fires the engines and flies the ship to the world that Naruto is on. With Naruto he was in a train compartment with Anya, Dmitry and Vladimir, and he was sitting opposite Anya with Puka on his lap napping, and when Dmitry then said stop fiddling with and sit up straight, remember you are a Grand Duchess. And how is it that you know what duchesses do and don't do, Anya said. Well, I made it my business to know all I can about being etiquette, Dmitry said. Is that so, Naruto asked. Look, I am trying to help her, alright, Dmitry said, which Naruto and Vladimir just rolled their eyes. Anya sits up then said, Dmitry, do you really think I am royalty? Is there any doubt, Dmitry replied. Then how about you do me a favor, Anya said. And what would that be, Dmitry asked. Then don't boss me around, Anya said before she slouches again. Well, she surely has a mind of her own, Vladimir said. I know, and, in a way, she reminds me of Bachan, Naruto said. Who is she and if may I ask how, Vladimir said, then thought that language he's got to be an of-worlder. Well, Bachan is the leader of the village where I live, and right now, I am on a training journey, so I can get stronger, and as for how Anya reminds me of Bachan, will speak her mind, and she isn't afraid to knock you out for any number good reasons, Naruto said. Say, Naruto, mind telling me what your home like, Anya said. Well, for starters, my home is a ninja village called Konoha, or the Hidden Leaf Village, as it is literally in the middle of forest, Naruto replied. And did you become a ninja, Vladimir asked. I did, and I still am. I am that journey I mentioned, Naruto said. Well, I am interested in seeing this village of yours, Dmitry said. I am sure you will someday, but I must warn you, Bachan isn't one for bullshit, Naruto said. So, what was you like as a child, Naruto, Vladimir asked. I was your typical problem child, doing all I can do get noticed whether it was good or bad, Naruto said. Why would you do that, child? What of your parents, Vladimir said. I never knew my parents because of my asshole of godfather lied to my mother, saying that I was dead, and my father was killed the night of my birth because there was a disaster that night. Everyone but a handful of people hated me, and most of the time they pretend that I didn't exist, and the only time they would acknowledge me was when that would form a mob and beat me till I was at death's. And since I became a shinobi they only acknowledge me so I can do their work, Naruto said before looking out the window with a sad look. And what of your teacher? Wasn't they meant to teach you? Vladimir asked. Well, officially I have two. The first one doesn't give a shit about me, as he never taught me anything except for tree climbing and teamwork, but that's a fat lot of good, as the team was doomed from the start, Naruto said. What do you mean, Naruto? Anya asked. What I mean, Anya, is that team is made up of 4 ninjas, a Jonin sensei and 3 genin, and the team that I was put on was never going to work out because the sensei I had was a disgrace to those that teach, Naruto said. He can't be that bad, Dmitry said. In the first 3 months I was a genin, all he taught us was teamwork, and he only taught us tree walking, was because on our first mission outside the village, it got a bit dangerous, and when I asked some of my former classmates on how long it was before they were taught the tree walking exercise, then they replied within the first fortnight, Naruto said. Okay, I stand corrected, Dmitry said. So, what was your other teammates like? Anya asked. Well, one of my teammates is named Sasuke Uchiha, and he is your typical emo avenging seeking power hungry teen, as he doesn't care about anyone other than himself and will demand we give him what he wants, like if he sees a wizard whose name is Sid, Sasuke will demand that Sid teaches home the woth of the mystic arts, and he is arrogant and it's so bad that he will not do anything if he thinks it is beneath him, Naruto said. And what of your other member? Vladimir asked. The last of my teammates is a girl named Sakura Haruno, and to put it simply, she is useless as she never trains, and thank that Sasuke will save her whenever she is in trouble, and she is the type of person that gave female in our profession, also known as Kunoichi, a bad name, Naruto said. So, you did all the work, hope you got the credit, Anya asked. Well, if we do a mission in the village then no, Sasuke gets all the credit, but outside the people are singing my praises, Naruto said. I have to know if he is an off-worlder, Vladimir thought, then turned to Naruto and says, Naruto, mind if I have a quick word with you outside? Sure, you can, Naruto said. Then he turns to Anya them said, I will be right back. Then he gets up, then follows Vladimir out the cabin. When Naruto shuts the door, the turns to the fat man, then asked, so what do you want to talk about? You are an off-worlder, aren't you? Vladimir asks. Yeah, I am an off-worlder, and you used to work for a noble family before something bad happened forcing you to become a common, Naruto said. Vladimir was shocked, then said, how did you know? I am a shinobi, I am supposed to notice the little things. Then there is the fact that I have the ability to sense negative emotions, and the feeling I have been getting from you two might not be bad, but it's there as I have felt it with the people in my home, as they tried to con me out of my money, Naruto replied. And you just let us use her for our plans to con the queen, Vladimir said. Of course not, as I plan to stop you before you do it, so think of it like this, we are using you just like you are using us, Naruto said. Then he turned to the door, then said, well, I think we better go back in before they kill each other. Then he opens the door and walks in and closes it behind him. Vladimir looked at the door then thought now if he is an off-worlder could he be a bear, then he enters the cabin again, only to find Anya and Dmitri having a disagreement, then they went their separate ways in the train, then he turned to Naruto and asked so what happened? Oh, you know a typical man meeting a strong-willed woman Naruto said before going those series of hand seals then said summoning jutsu then he summoned a Pa then said hey, Pa I finally got some time to myself, so what did you want to tell me? Pa looks around and sees Vladimir then said I see you have company and he also knows about the other worlds as well. But I do it's nice to meet you, Vlad said as he holds out his hand. Pa looks at Vlad then his hand then he pulls out a black wooden staff, then said you better not corrupt Naruto boy then for good measure whacked the fat man on his head. Vladimir rubs the spot that Pa whacked, then said that hurt and I won't kid's bit smart for that might learn something, but I can tell in the few hours I have known him, he doesn't have a bad bone in his body. Yeah, but not by choice Naruto mumbled. Vladimir looks at Naruto, then said what do you mean lad? Don't worry about it as it's my problem to sort out Naruto said to Vladimir, then he turns to Pa then asked, so what do you want to tell me? Well Naruto boy I am afraid to say that it has been decided to remove you from the Toad contract Pa said. Naruto was shocked to hear this then said what but why what have I done wrong? It's not what you have done it's what we have done we held the key to your seal, but it disappeared about a week ago Pa said. Well, that would be about the time Kurama was removed from me, Naruto said in a thoughtful manner. I see that would explain it then there is the fact that we also had a part of the sealing, not knowing Minato's true intention was, and therefore we feel you don't deserve us, and Jiraiya could try and find you though the contract Pa said. I see and is that all before I say goodbye to you and send the message to the others, Naruto said with a sad tone. There is the Toad Sage had a vision and he saw that you will gain a contact, one that is thought to be a myth Pa said then he jumps on Naruto and hugs him, then said well this is goodbye oh and before I go when you do find the contract tell the boss the Toad say that you are ready for sage training, then he disappears in a puff of smoke, then all Naruto does is sit there and look out the window with watery eyes meanwhile Vladimir not knowing what to say just sits there and read a book. For what it's worth Naruto I am sorry you had to go through that, but you Kairi said. Thanks Kairi that means a. After a while Anya comes back and upon seeing Naruto, she turns to Vladimir and asks Vlad what's the matter with him. Oh, he had to say goodbye to a few friends of his Vladimir replied then he gets up then said now if you'll excuse, I have something to take care of and will be back in a while. Okay Anya said then Vladimir left the cabin then she turned to Naruto, then said Naruto mind if I take a nap? Sure, I don't mind Naruto said still looking out the window. Anya sits down next to him then said Naruto do you want to talk about what happened? For you to know that you must know that I am not from this world and on this world, we have the ability to use a power called chakra and it allows us to do amazing stuff like use it for attacks also known as jutsu, walk in any surfaces. Enhance our strength and several other things, and there is one jutsu we are able to do is known as summoning, which allows us to summon animals, and I was contracted to the Toad, but they removed my name from the contract and I was on good terms with them, but they felt they didn't deserve me, as they slightly had a hand in how I was treated, as well as a Toad sage saw that I was about to find a contract that is thought to be a myth Naruto said. So, what will you do once I am with my family and what are the other world like Anya asked. Well, I was planning to stay a few days just in case my teammates are liking for me, otherwise I will open a portal and go to Traverse Town and try and get in touch with them there as that is where my sensei is Naruto replied. I see mind if I come with you when you go Anya asked. I don't see why not, but I will ask you if you can when then time comes Naruto said. Fair enough Anya said, and in a matter of minutes she was asleep on Naruto's shoulder, then he moved her, so she was on his lap, then he dozed off. So this part ends here. Alright that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.